Yo, welcome to another episode of Under the Surface, a talk show where we talk all things Bazaar. Today we tasked ourselves to try and come up with an idea for a future hero. As it turns out, we approached that from two completely different angles. You are about to witness our wacky ideas in a minute, because we are diving under the surface.
Let's do it.
Oh yes. First of all, I would like to say that my hero that I envisioned would be a wizard or a magician, something like that. Who would be your hero?
My hero is, we'll just say he's a gambling addict.
Oh,
Just leave it at that.
that would be nice. Okay, you said that I should start with my hero first, right?
Yeah.
I would like a wizard or a magician to be in the game. And to be fair, I think that's my favorite type of hero in fantasy settings. I'm really into magic, like Harry Potter and on all that jazz. Like that was the first thing I thought of when thinking about a future hero. I was thinking what a wizard could do. And well, an obvious thing is a wizard casts spells, right? But how casting spells would work in a, Bazaar? I thought to myself that there could be sort of division. Some items could generate mana. So let's imagine a magic orb or something, or a like gem that, is a regular item in the Bazaar would do. It would have a cooldown, and after it goes off, it would grant you a bit of mana. So let's say that would be a blue number on your health bar, because who wouldn't want more numbers on your health bar, right? You generate some mana, and then other items like spellbooks or wands or staffs or whatever else could use that mana. And maybe there would be like a fire wand, which after its cooldown goes off, it would use like X amount of mana, and then it would just throw a fireball at your opponent. Or maybe there would be like a wind spell which hastes your items. Like, do you remember Altitude from Bazaar number 37 when Reynard was playing Stell?
Yeah.
So it would possibly work in a similar way. You would gather mana. Being really precise with it probably wouldn't be necessary because you simply want to have it more and more. But maybe some items could work like if you have at least X amount of mana, do something. Or like your items do something. Or maybe instead of using flat amount of mana, you use percent of your mana to have appropriately large effect. I think you get my drift.
Yeah, I get what you're putting down.
That would be one part of it. As in, that's a natural way for a wizard to work. He gets mana from some artifacts, and then they cast spells and curses to affect themselves and their opponent. However, I was thinking about another mechanic that could work in tandem with this mana generation and spells. I have no idea how it should be named. I chose the name Morph. Let's imagine an item that has this morph mechanic on it. Whenever it would go off, it would morph either your item or an opponent's item. I would suppose that morphing your opponent's item would be better. And it would change that item into an item of the same size, but, different. Instead of having, let's say, a lemon stand, it would change into a vineyard.
That sounds awesome. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I would play a character with Morph.
So that's like a sort of like freeze, but not exactly. You are simply changing one item to the other. However, I think the strength of it is going to be mostly the synergy disruption.
I think you could have some hilarious scenarios where like somehow you morph it into something that's more synergistic because their build was terrible or something like that. That would be hilarious.
Yes.
That's the kind of chaos I want.
I think that's sort of the beauty of this mechanic, because it is on one hand strong because you disrupt the synergy of your enemy, but there is still this tiny sliver of a chance that you can actually improve the strategy. Additionally, it could also not only swap within the same subtype, like let's say it would change a weapon into a weapon, so that would make it a bit weaker because you cannot go from an active item to a passive item. So there could be like two sort of levels. One, like this weaker sort of morph could change an item within the same subtype, and the stronger morph could not be subtype restricted.
It sounds awesome. I want that mechanic in the game right now. I'm not gonna lie. I love chaotic things. I mean, whoever had that mechanic would be my main hero, or if it was amongst other heroes or whatever, I
Right.
would be doing that constantly.
The last thing that I would like to add to my wizard character, with this morph mechanic, I thought to myself that there could be like a morphling, or like, let's say, a homunculus, whatever, like a little friend that would copy the effects of the item to the left. So you would be able to have sort of like two of the same item. Not 100% sure how useful would that be, but I think that would be a fun effect to have.
Yeah, I like the idea of it. I know like Hearthstone and other games have cards like that, and I
Mm-hmm.
always like that sort of mechanic. So
And also, like, I thought about having like an item that is like a magic box that you would put other items inside it to give it the effects of those items. So let's say if you were to put a shielding item into a magic box, it would give shield. If you were to put a weapon into a magic box, it would deal damage. If you were to put a pufferfish into a magic box, it would start poisoning your opponent. But I'm not 100% sure how they would make that work, because there isn't really a UI, there isn't anything in terms of UI that would support putting one item inside the other item. But I think that would be fun still.
yeah, I really like that. Also, you'd have to make it so like you lose the item or something when you stick it in there,
Yes.
because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would be broken. That's like a chest.
No, it's I mean, the idea of magic box is based on the box from Diablo 2. You had this cube where you could hold items inside your backpack. So there was this backpack inception going on. But I think that if you were to expand your stash with this magic box, it would be too strong. But if you were to, like, put items into a magic box just to upgrade it, sort of, but you lose on the, well, coin value of those items, then I think it would be all right.
Yeah. I think all three of the ideas you've given are like top tier. Like I could see any of those being implemented in game.
Ah, thank you, thank you.
So you're about to hear my horrible
Oh
idea
yeah.
whenever we get to it, and
I mean,
it's not quite that good, but
I would gladly hear about your gambler hero. So I think that's exactly the time to do it.
okay. So I got lore.
Oh
That's where I started with. So it's a dark and stormy night in the bazaar. Okay, and I don't know what race or gender this character is, so you can just kind of put in what you think they should look like. But uh, a baby was dropped off at an orphanage by like parents who couldn't take care of it, and this child grows up in this orphanage in the bazaar, and things are crazy in the bazaar, and it's hard being an orphan, and orphans aren't really well taken care of in this uh, orphanage, and so he's trying to find out, or here they or she, whoever is trying to figure out a way out of the system, like a way to move up in the world. And so this character starts doing like street scams, like cup and ball scams, like you know what I'm talking about, where like you have the three
yeah.
cups and then you take the ball out of the cup so nobody can ever win. They start doing all these sort of like scams, and somehow over the
Or
years it
like card
evolves.
tricks, right?
Card tricks is another one, yeah, anything like that. And they're kind of pretending like there's some sort of like they're just really lucky. They just always win all this stuff, but
Mm.
they're actually just scamming people. And over, I don't know, decades, this evolves from a kid doing these little street scams and getting crowds to uh, the owner of the bazaar's biggest casino and resort, like in Las Vegas. Like he's built this brand for himself. He's this big character that just has this huge casino with slot machines and poker tables and whatever.
Actually, what you just said gave me an idea, because a casino or a slot machine could be an item, right? Those two could be items, and they could be like properties, right? So
Yep.
a casino could be a property, a slot machine could be a property. That would be nice.
And then now he owns this big casino, and I think it's kind of common knowledge casinos are, I mean, the house always wins, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So his whole mechanic I've come up with, this might be terrible, so you can tell me if there's a better way to improve this. I really want your opinion on this. But this character is always a lot of his extra sort of mechanic is going to be like an odds sort of thing. So you have items that have normal stuff happening, and then they have like when they trigger like a chance to do something else. And the chances, you'd have to balance them and everything, but it could be like 1 in 2 or 1 in 6 or 1 in 4. And then maybe he has
I mean,
properties and other items that can increase or decrease the chances based on if the things you want to happen or if the odds mechanics, which maybe is like haste or slow or whatever, if those are good or bad for you.
okay, so odds. So having an additional effect on top of the regular effect of the item, right? Because it's not that you are either getting an effect or nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean you could do it either way depending on the item, but yeah, that's kind of how I envisioned it.
Yeah, but I'm 100% sure Reynard would never make a card that's like so volatile
Does
in
nothing.
terms of RNG because like he has like 3 separate videos on his channel where he sort of bashes on that sort of game design. All those items would definitely need some sort of baseline that is workable, but having this chance factor of upgrading those effects somehow, that could possibly be cool. Although I think the most fun part about all of this is having items that actually increase your odds. So let's say you have like you mentioned the ball and caps game. Having like an additional card or an item that's like, let's say a sleeve that says that whenever you do that stuff with those caps and the ball, the odds of that happening are in your favor, or if you actually do have this sleeve, it always happens. Manipulation of the odds is fun, but the base effect would need to be strong enough for you to not worry if you can get this lucky effect.
Yeah. I guess I base this odds idea off of Balatro because they have some cards with like 1 in 2 chance to do something, and there's ways to increase it. There's a specific Joker that increases it, so that's where it came from. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in this game, you're fighting other people, so it's definitely a harder thing to pull off, I guess.
I mean,
I'm glad you didn't think it was horrible.
there's a lot of balancing work with those sort of effects. So maybe there could be items that, have like 3 different effects and one of them always goes off. Like, let's say you have 3 caps and the ball. So there's sort of like, depending on under which cap the ball is, that particular effect happens. That could be okay, but on the other hand, that's like 3 items packed into one. So you have to sort of design 3 items and then you have to put that on one item. So that's 3 times as much work. So that also has to be taken into the consideration. But I immediately started approaching it from the game design perspective after you said your part. So I'm not trying to, diminish your work because your idea is really fun, but that's sort of the point in game design to start. You need to start poking holes into your ideas because if you don't, there's no way to improve them, right?
Yeah, totally. I think we kind of approached everything from like different aspects, so it's really good to make something a little more fleshed out in that sort of way.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of a gambler, right? Having to wager something. How would that work? I'm not 100% sure. There are a couple of things that you can wager, right? Because you have your gold, which is like that's sort of obvious. But on the other hand, you can also wager your health. Maybe you could wager whole items or maybe skills that you have.
Ooh, that could get crazy.
Yeah.
Is it Marvel? Does Marvel Snap? They have like the double down mechanic sort of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I kind of thought about that with this character, because like betting and doubling down. And I think Rain had once mentioned they thought about implementing something like that somewhere, but they couldn't make it work and didn't like the way it turned out. So, but maybe that's something to throw in for a gambling hero at some point. I kind of wanted to make this guy more scammy though, like he's doing stuff to rig the odds.
Some items could have effects like if you have more than X number of coins, this item does something, and if you have less than X number of coins, this item does something else. either you're really wealthy and you can do something, or you're broke and then you can do something else. Maybe this could also work, but it's still like designing 2 cards for the price of 1. It's fun, but it's much more work for the designers.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to design it, so we can just
I mean,
come up with
yeah,
the idea,
yeah.
take the credit.
When I was designing my hero, I wanted to make it easy enough for it to actually be possibly implemented somehow. Like, I want to say this immediately. Like, Reynat and the team, if you want to use my idea, go ahead and do that. However, if you release that hero, I would like to have access to it for free.
Seems like a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
I really like chaos, like with your morph idea. Like it's a perfect example. I want like just nonsense to happen in the game, or to have really cool like odds type things happen. Like I want to have a chance for some really crazy thing to happen, because that's where I get a lot of enjoyment in games like the Bazaar, or card games, is the insanity that can happen. Like Yogg-Saron, I've talked about before, from the Old Gods Hearthstone expansion.
Yeah.
Just does random spells. They like you've for every spell you've done, he does that many number of random spells. So I
Yeah.
like mechanics like that.
I mean, that's definitely an exciting card. I mean, the worst part about it, it was good enough to be played competitively, but I don't think that's an effect that should be present in the game, because that's another example of really volatile RNG, right? Because you can pyroblast your face, which isn't at all desirable, but it's in the realms of possibility when using that card. Like, I think the outcomes should be normalized from the start, and then like all those outcomes should be of relatively the same value. In no way you should feel like the effect that you got is at no point relevant during the fight, because that's when you feel like you've been scammed. That's the point where you feel like you don't want to play the game anymore, because the game doesn't respond to what you want the game to do.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about balancing that sort of craziness too. You got to find the middle ground, and it doesn't seem like many games can find it. So
I mean, well, it depends on what the designers actually want to achieve, because in Hearthstone recently, from what I've been understanding, like they are mostly looking for the moment-to-moment excitement. I think you know what I mean.
you can tell that when you play the game too, because there's crazy cards in that game now.
Moving away from the Hearthstone discussion for a bit, because I have like 1 or 2 ideas that I could put into this video. First of all, like my other hero like wish more than idea is I would like to have a musician hero. That's another thing that I enjoy, music. And I have no idea how a musician could work. I mean, having musical instruments as items is fairly obvious, but should it be connected to joy mechanic? And if so, how does joy mechanic work at all? Because all the mentions about this mechanic have been removed from the website, from the game, and from wherever.
I would be shocked if there's not a musician in the game at some point, because it seems like such an obvious thing, like an obvious theme for a character in this sort of game.
Yeah, I think I've heard someone say on Discord that the team at some point said that they want to have a musician hero in the game, but like it's not certain when that hero can actually come into the game. And like one small idea at the end is I would like to have an enchantment in the game. Like that's not really related to any of the heroes, but I would like to have an enchantment in the game that would add a subtype to an item. So let's say an enchantment that says that this item is now a friend, or this item is now a property, this item is now a weapon. I think that would allow for some silly interactions and combos to emerge.
Yeah, I would really like that. And also, sometimes you see an item and you're like, why is this item not this subtype? Well, it's probably like a balancing thing. So you could just headcanon it and make it that subtype. Be like, yeah, I was right.
Yeah. And I think that because a lot of items interact with a certain subtype. So, putting that one item that you really want to have that subtype. The thing that inspired this type of enchantment is in Magic the Gathering, there are a lot of enchantments. Enchantment is a card type that say like this creature is now a human, or this card is now an artifact, something like this, I think having that in the Bazaar would expand the options that are available to us. It also needs to be said that if those were to be actual enchantments in the game, that would dilute the pool of random enchantments at the Resurrection event and on the 16 level up.
In certain contexts, you would not need that enchantment at all.
Yeah.
Are you envisioning multiple enchantments, like one for each subtype, or just one where you select a subtype on a card?
I think there should be separate enchantments for like weapon, friend, and maybe property. I don't know what else is usable. Tool, maybe? Do you think there are any other subtypes that would be relevant for that kind of enchantment?
Probably not. The only one I can really think of is vehicle, but I don't think that's common enough, at least not yet. So
yeah, maybe in the future. I'm not saying that this type of enchantment needs to be in the game ASAP, but like at some point I think, or maybe not necessarily an enchantment, maybe some other like mechanic could facilitate that, but I think having an option to add a subtype to an item would be a fun interaction.
I agree. Yeah, maybe it would be better as something other than an enchantment, but yeah, I really like the idea of it.
Thank you for watching another episode of Under the Surface. If you have any ideas how to improve our characters, or maybe you have ideas for your own future heroes, then please make sure to leave a comment down below. And, leave a comment, like our video, subscribe, all that jazz. And we'll see you soon, possibly on Thursday on Blake's channel. Is that correct?
Yep. We'll see you there.
Yeah. Bye.
See ya.